Hello everybody, thank you for joining me. I'm Val Rainbow and I'm also Mandala Arts. I thought today I would talk to you about t-shirt yarn. Now this is something I've come across a few years ago. I'm a very keen crocheter and I discovered you could make things out of t-shirts, which I was really excited about. I'm really passionate about the idea that you can recycle and reuse things, and making something out of an old t-shirt that you'd otherwise throw away seems to me a fantastic idea. So anyway, I've been doing my research and I've been making a few things, some of which are around me, as you can see, which I will talk about in a bit more detail in a few minutes. Even if you're not a crocheter, if you're a knitter or a weaver, or you do finger knitting, you can use t-shirt yarn. So I will talk a bit more about that now. So t-shirt yarn, you can either buy it ready-made or you can make your own. I of course prefer to make my own because that fits in with the ethic of what I'm doing, but I also use ready-made stuff too, because sometimes you just can't get the right colours. I do rely on other people to give me t-shirts or donate t-shirts, so obviously then I'm restricted as to what colours I can use. So if I want specific colours, then I will go out and buy some t-shirt yarn. But the only drawback with that, I'm finding, is that t-shirt yarn is usually pretty chunky, the ones that you buy. So I do prefer to make my own if I can, but I do sometimes combine the two. And you can get different weights of ready-made t-shirt yarn. Anyway, you can get it from eBay, you can get it from Amazon, and most yarn suppliers will also stock it as well. So I'm going to show you some of the t-shirt yarn that you can buy. This is a company called Hooked. I don't know if you can see that. Quite a chunky yarn, as you might be able to see, perhaps. Really thick. And this t-shirt yarn, or some manufacturers, make it from the waste from making t-shirts, so it's still being reused and recycled, which is good in my book. Not all manufacturers do that, so you might want to check around if that's something that's important to you. I have bought some from a company which I think is German called Twisted with a double S, and I think theirs is supposed to be recycled, repurposed fabric. But also they do come in different weights as well. Mostly thick, quite thick. Anyway, so you need a bit of trial and error really with that. So I'm going to show you, that's another type, that's the same kind of yarn as the one I've just shown you. Different company, but as you can see it's got a lot of stretch. T-shirt yarn comes in lots of different types of fabric. But really the best type is one that's heavy on the cotton. Well, at least I prefer to work with that. You can get t-shirt yarn that's very synthetic and stretchy. It makes up okay, but I feel like that's kind of missing the ethic really of using t-shirt yarn and something that's sustainable in the first place. So you can see that this is pretty thick actually. I mean, if I unravel it, and I'll talk about how that's made, you can see that's pretty thick. But when you pull it, it curls up, and there you've got this lovely stretchy yarn. So I'll show you a couple of things I've made with that particular yarn. So this is a basket that I've made. This is for sale, by the way, in case you're interested. That is a lovely storage basket. If you can't see, it's a very pale pink with a little fleck of grey in it. As you can see, it's pretty stretchy. You can kind of mangle it up, and then you've got this nice bag that stands on its own, and it's quite firm actually as well, if you can see that. For those of you who are crocheters, you might be interested to know that it's mostly done, or I think it almost exclusively done, with single crochet. So you make an increasing circle and then you just go straight up. But that, I will do a video at some point, but there's lots of videos on YouTube to show you how to make them. Sometimes I put handles on them, but not this particular one. So that's made with that bought t-shirt yarn. Now you can mix the bought t-shirt yarn with your own made yarn, but you obviously have to make sure that your yarn is the same thickness, so because that makes quite a difference to the shape, and it doesn't look as even. So I'm going to show you a few more. Another item that's also made from the same t-shirt yarn. Now, as I was mentioned earlier, this nice little basket with a tassel on the end, so with a lid. T-shirt yarn works well with big chunky items. This is probably about as small as you can go with the bought t-shirt yarn without it starting to get really hard work to work with. Yeah, this was okay, but anything very much smaller would be a bit of a struggle. It'd be very hard. It is hard on your hands using t-shirt yarn. I've got arthritis, so I do a bit, then put it down, then pick it up again. And you need chunky hooks as well, but again I'll talk about that in a moment. So I'm just going to show you a couple of more. Now these baskets are ones I've made out of my own t-shirt yarn, so you can see it's a little bit more floppy. Again, using t-shirt yarn that I made myself, and put a little button on the top as well. So I've made those in a number of colours. Plus I've also, with my scrap yarn, some of my bits and pieces that I've got left over from something else, I made another little pot. So you can see they've got a bit of substance. They'll take a little bit of bashing, but they stand up on their own. So, and also they're completely washable. Of course you can throw them in the washing machine, which obviously you couldn't with a normal basket. So very versatile, very useful. You could use them in bathrooms, bedrooms, keep things in them like your jewellery, nail varnish, etc, etc. These are a couple more. This is another t-shirt yarn, a little basket. Somebody bought a much larger version of this and used it to put their pot plant in, presumably in the pot. But you know, you can use it for anything. Very versatile. And yet another one. This one is t-shirt yarn that I made myself. So that was a bought one. That one is homemade t-shirt yarn. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how you make t-shirt yarn. There are lots of videos on YouTube. So to get a really definitive guide, then obviously go and look there. But I'll just give you the basic principles of how it works. So to make it easy, and unfortunately I've left my dressmaking scissors in the other room, I'm going to have to manage with some little teeny weeny scissors. But anyway, so normally you would use the body of the t-shirt. Now in this particular instance, to make it easy for the video, I've got one of the sleeves that's left over from I've cut the sleeves off my t-shirt to use the rest of it, and the sleeves are left over. If you're making something using your own t-shirt yarn and you run out, then it's really useful to keep these bits and pieces, because you can make odds and ends, you know, and you can join to do those last few stitches. So anyway, the basic principle of making continuous t-shirt yarn with your t-shirt is you need to put it on something like an ironing board. So if you haven't got an ironing board, you could have a strip of heavy cardboard or wood even, you could stick on the end of a table. But you need to be able to rotate this around your ironing board so that then you get a continuous strip. So I'm going to give you an idea of how you do this. So you cut off the bottom of the t-shirt, let's say this is like a miniature t-shirt, and then you start cutting however wide you want it. Now I'm going to cut this about, if you can see that, I'm cutting that, about maybe less than an inch, about 3/4 of an inch. Now some people like to measure it. I'm afraid I'm a bit of a budget girl, so I tend to do it by eye, and when you've been doing it for a while you'll realise it doesn't matter, to be honest, if you're not exactly spot on. So you just keep cutting around, and as you can see I'm just moving the t-shirt around. So you have to imagine that my hand is the ironing board, and I keep cutting, and when I get round to where I started, whoops, I'm almost there, a little bit further, whoops, Forgive the unevenness of this since I'm doing it in the spur of the moment. So you can see coming to the end here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to veer up slightly to one side. You can see what's happening there, and I'm going to carry on cutting up there. So sort of ignoring that little bump, which you can trim off if you want. And I'm going to keep going. So I'm going back round my sleeve again. So you can see now I'm getting a strip. So you keep on doing that around your garment until you've come to the, usually it's to do with the armpits. You get up as high as the armpits and then you have to stop. And then you've got a really long piece of fabric, narrow fabric. And the great thing about this is that it looks flat at the moment, but as soon as you pull it, it curls on itself. And look at that, isn't that magical? So there you have your t-shirt yarn. Then roll it into a ball, which is what I normally do, and you'll end up with something like that. Now you might be able to see there's little bumps there. Now these little bumps are where I've joined it. Now I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because those of you who don't crochet will probably go, oh god. That's something I will do a video about. There is a special, couple of special joins, which I know is a boho knot, which is a real clever way of joining that so you don't get much of a bump. And it means you can utilise all the bits and pieces that are left over, that are not the main part of the t-shirt. So that's basically how you make t-shirt yarn. So I've been making things for a little while now. So I'm going to show you a few of the things that I've made. Obviously, if you're interested, they are all for sale. Just get in touch with me on Facebook Messenger, or you can go onto my Mandala Arts Facebook page, or onto my Val Rainbow Facebook page, and then we can talk about, you know, sort out payment and so forth. If you want more details, of course, get in touch with me. Right, so I'm going to start showing you a few of the things that I've made, and the things that I made first of all were rugs. Now, I hadn't done very much, so I thought I'm going to have a go at a rug. So here we go. Here's one of my first ever rugs. So as you can see, I'm pretty sure I did that. I think that was double crochet, for those of you who know a bit about crochet. And each of those colours represents a t-shirt. So I used 3 t-shirts for that. Now it does eat it up, I have to say. So so that little rug, as you can see, which would just be a nice size for using in a bathroom, perhaps, or a very small bedroom. So yeah, I needed 3 t-shirts of different colours to do that. Plus I had some little bits left over, so I made a fringe on the end. But I think it's always useful to make sure before you start a project like this that you have all your yarn together and that you have leftover stuff if you've made your own t-shirts, because you're always going to need a bit more. You never quite know, until you've been doing it for a while, quite how much you're going to need. So I've got a couple of other rugs. There's another one here which is a pretty pale colour. I don't know whether you can see that. I've got everything on top of it, so I can't show you the whole thing. But basically, again, I think there's several t-shirts in that one. Sometimes it can take as many as 6 t-shirts to make a rug, but completely washable and very hard wearing, very durable, so perfect in a bedroom or a bathroom. So one of the things that I'm very keen on, and I know a lot of other people are, is the idea that you can use t-shirt yarn to make shopping bags. I know that we're all much more careful now than we used to be in not using plastic so much, and a lot of manufacturers and companies are now using paper. But if you want something really sustainable, then you use one of your old t-shirts, well, 6 of your old t-shirts, and you make a bag. And then you can use it for shopping. I've made quite a few and they always seem to be very popular, so I'm going to show you some different ones. You can make, again, if you crochet, not sure whether you can knit them, but you probably could. So you can make different sizes. So this one is quite a flat little bag. You can see it's got quite a, I don't know if you can see that, it's got quite a narrow little base, so it's very flat until you've got it filled up with shopping. So I don't know whether you can see that because it's black. It's maybe a bit tricky to see. I'll see if I can get it in the light a bit more. They've got black and a very dark greeny blue and then green at the top. So as you can see, I put handles on that, nice chunky handles, and although it stretches, it's really hard wearing and it's very chunky. It's got a bit of stretch, so you get quite a bit in there. And it's got a springiness to it, which is rather nice. So I get a little shopping bag. And I've got a bigger one here, much bigger one, which is this one, this gigantic thing. You can see, as I was saying earlier, I started with one colour and realised I hadn't got enough. So I had to get creative. So again, you know, I usually gather my colours together before I start and put them all together and think, what do I think of that? Do I like that colour combination? And as I said, you're always going to need that little bit more. So these bags, this particular bag is £20 if you're interested in purchasing it. The smaller one, I think that I showed you a few moments ago, was 15, so that one's 15. So going on to talk about bags, one of the other things that I've recently been doing is making rucksacks or backpacks. I must admit, I went on YouTube and I happened to find a video on how to make a rucksack. I usually do a bit of research by looking at more than one of the same and see how other people have done them, and then I have a go at doing my own. So my very first one was this one. So I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to get a little bit closer to the camera so you can see. It's looking a bit flat because there's nothing inside it. So that's quite a cute size. It's got a big chunky wooden button, which obviously I did have to buy that, although obviously if you've got them around, that's great. So big enough capacity, you could probably get maybe a small iPad, or certainly get a Kindle in there. You can see it's that's what it looks like inside. I don't know whether you can see that very well. And they've got a separate flap with a little loop on the end to fix over your button. It's got a tie on the front, so that cinches it up once you've got stuff inside. And it's also got some little straps on the back, plus a loop to hang it up or to hold it. As I said before, I was lucky enough to get a lot of t-shirts off people, particularly during the heavier, beginning part of the lockdown, and lots of people, because the tips were closed and the charity shops were closed, people were keen to get rid of their t-shirts. So I ended up with all sorts of amazing colours, which is where this all came from. So they wouldn't have been colours I'd have chosen normally, but actually I think they're a really lovely combination. So these bags, this one's £20, and I've also got a couple of bigger ones that I'm going to show you now as well. They're a lot bigger actually. Everything I make is unique and one-off. I get a bit bored really, to be honest, so I don't really tend to make things identical. In fact, I don't think I could, because really, if you think about it, the nature of making something out of recycled materials mean you may not be able to get the same materials every time. So I think that's kind of a nice thing really myself. Anyway, so I'm going to show you two more of my rucksacks. Oh, actually I've got three. I'll show you all three. So here's another chunky one. This one has got a bit of stuff inside it. I've stuffed it out with a few bags. So that's another one. That's slightly longer, bigger than the other one. So again, it's got that button on the front, slightly different shape here, Again, you know, it depends how the mood takes me. Obviously got the button on the front. You can see it's a bit bigger on the base, so it'll take a bit more. You'd easily get an iPad, perhaps a small laptop in there. And plus the handle on the back, same as with the other one, with a bit of stretch in it and a little loop to hang it as well. So that's another of the large ones. Those are 25 because there are obviously more work in them. Here's another £25 one, different colours again, and a slightly different top to it as well. So again, quite good capacity, this one. There's a lot of space in there, and you've got your straps on the back plus the loop. So all pretty much the same kind of design, and that one's 25 as well. I've got one more to show you, which is a little one, very funky colours. Now, for those of you who lived through the 1980s, me included, when I saw these colours I thought, oh my god, those are the kind of colours we used to wear, especially when we went to the club. So I kind of think of that as my 1980s clubbing bag. Anyway, so again, it's a bright sort of neon pink. It's all the neon colours plus a bit of grey. So that was a combination a lot of people seemed to wear in the 80s, I seem to remember. So neon colours, exactly the same design as the others. So you've got your straps on the back and your little loop to carry it as well. So another little rucksack. That one is another £20 one, should you be interested. Now, as I mentioned before, all the things that I make are all unique. So it is a case of first come, first served. If you're interested in purchasing something, get to me as quickly as you can, because it's pretty much impossible for me to make the same thing twice. I'm always making new things, always making new items, and if you've got specific colours that you like, then I can always endeavour to see if I can get a combination of colours. But it is rather an art form, to be honest, in my view. So I hope you like my little introduction to t-shirt yarn. I will be doing some more videos, or hopefully some live ones, talking about other things that I've made, but as I said before, I'm really interested in the whole idea of making things out of recycled materials, so there will be an emphasis on that, and I will be giving the heads up when I'm doing one of those. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that, and look forward to seeing you and talking to you the next time.